I never liked school. It was not one of my favorite things.
That's completely understandable.
Well, I was kept out of school to watch the other kids so
Oh, yeah.
much that I got so far behind in everything. I flunked the first grade because we had to walk so far to school. I was 5, and have to walk 3 miles to school with a couple of boys that were as mean as dogs to me. And
Well,
but I get cold because we never had proper clothing to wear. I'd get cold and I'd start crying, and I'd turn around and go back home. I didn't realize that I was halfway there or closer to school. I just didn't want nobody to see me crying, so I'd go back home and cry.
Yeah, you don't really have that kind of perspective as a kid.
Tears be frozen on my face, and
Oh.
everything. And I made the second grade okay. I flunked the third grade because I was kept out of school so much, and I couldn't get my math.
Hmm.
It just never made no sense to me,
Good old math.
especially when it come to fractions and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Decimal points, I never knew where to put a decimal point.
Hmm.
But after I went to California, the teacher that I had in high school, I took general math my freshman year, and I got A's all year long.
Hmm.
But he took the time to work with me and explain, stuff to me.
Yeah. Teachers can make that big of a difference in your
But
understanding.
then when I was supposed to take algebra, I knew but when I got to that part, I didn't do so good.
Yeah. Y equals mx plus b. What does it mean?
We had social studies. We had United States history and American history. Don't even know what the difference was. Still don't. We have world history and United States history. I used, well, I don't care what the rest of the world was doing or when they did it,
Yeah.
And the only time I ever used any of it was when I was in accounting there at MBS. And I used math there.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I don't know if accounting is the best position for someone who struggles with math. But did you do okay in accounting? Did you do okay in accounting?
Yeah, but I didn't have to do very much,
Oh, okay.
you know. We had a class clown that was always interrupting the class and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And he must have had um, ADT or whatever you call it, you know.
ADHD.
Yeah.
Okay.
He couldn't sit still, and he couldn't be quiet, steady, so
Right.
no matter how hard he tried, he just couldn't.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, there was others, you know, that would egg him on, you know,
Yeah.
get him to do stuff.
He was only.
And
He was all too happy to do it, huh?
yeah, and they'd send him out of the class, make him sit outside the classroom for a while, and then they'd let him come back in, and it never done him good.
Yeah.
They just passed him to get him on through, you know.
Yeah. He probably wasn't learning much being outside the classroom.
They didn't have the,
Like a remedial class.
yeah, they didn't have stuff like that then,
Mm-hmm.
you know, to help the kids. They just passed them to get them on, you know, out of their class because they disturbed the class so much. That probably that one was probably autistic, you know, because he just couldn't sit still and couldn't be still. He just couldn't. And the teacher would get on to his case, you know, about interrupting the class, and he said, "Well, I was going to tell you I liked you, but I ain't going to tell you that now."
Mm-hmm.
He was, you know, he was just, he just couldn't behave himself. That's all.
Yeah.
I think I had him in 2 classes. I had him in world history, and I had him in science. He was in a science class with me. And the only time I ever said anything, I almost got us all kicked out of class.
You were a troublemaker.
Well, I very seldom ever said anything, but there was, you know, a lot of them, different ones, you know, saying different things, and of course we used to say it around, smart feller, I feller smart.
Hmm.
And I had him trying to say that, and the teacher was out of the class to start with,
Mm-hmm.
and he was standing back by the door, and I didn't know he was back there.
Oh.
It got the class in trouble because they were all trying to say it, and they all said things that they didn't need to be saying. He said, "Who started this?" Nobody said a word.
Yeah. Figures.
Yeah. At least they didn't snitch me out. But it come close to getting us all kicked out of class for that day, you know. Of course, that wouldn't have hurt anybody's feelings either.
Yeah.
Today.
I was gonna say, can't learn nothing if you're not in class.
Except the parents then, they whooped on your butt when you messed up in school like that. You got one chance and you didn't get the second one. I enjoyed school out there, you know, when I was in California, but I sure didn't enjoy it here because, and I never went to Fayette School, and I've had people say, "Well, I know you from school in Fayette." No, I never went to Fayette School, ever. We lived in Fayette a lot, you know, at different times, but it was usually in the summertime, and then we'd always move, you know. I never went to Fayette School. Of course, when we come back home from California the first time, I was only 5, I think, 4 or 5, and I think I was just 4. But I had been to kindergarten in California then. I went to, I forgot what the Reading School. It was just a little one room schoolhouse. It had about well, I can remember me and Pat, my oldest brother, Darlene Redding House. Teacher's name was Miss. No, she was Clifton Hill, Miss Hoffman. I forgot what the teacher's name was.
Yeah, I can't remember a lot of my teachers.
She was the first one to ever smack my hands with a ruler.
Oh, she's one of those classic types.
Well, she had told me I should have paid attention to what she told me. It's the only time I ever got in trouble. You know, that's serious trouble, and that wasn't serious. Other than it was just nasty. People used to, if they'd make them spit their gum out, they'd stick it under the desk.
Mm-hmm.
And I was picking gum out, chewing that gum.
Oh my goodness.
And she caught me. And she had told me several times, you know, don't do that. You know, you don't know who chewed that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I was 5 years old. Who cared who chewed it? So, and she smacked my hands with a ruler. She took hold my hands like that and smacked my hands with a ruler. That stings.
Not bad.
That stings. And Bond School was the name of the school. Bond. Then we went to Clifton Hill. Well, we went to then Clifton Hill was it was just a very small town, but it had a high school and a, you know, it was a lot bigger school than what we were used to. I think I was in 3rd grade. Because Pat was 4th grade. And me and Nana, for some reason or other, were both in the 3rd grade. And Joe was in the 2nd grade. And the teacher had one of her hands off up about here on her arm. And, boy, she was mean. She was a mean woman. And they wanted to go uptown, and she told them no. Because, I mean, it was right there in town. She told them no. And they went uptown anyway.
Yeah. I wouldn't want to listen to her.
She seen them when they come back on the school grounds. Or she'd have never known.
Mm-hmm.
Because Joe went and asked the principal if they could go, and he said they could go.
Oh, moving up
But
the chain.
he didn't know that she'd already said no. They couldn't. And so she whipped all 3. I didn't go. She whipped Nana and Pat and Joe. And when the principal found out she whipped Joe, she got in trouble because he was teacher's pet.
Oh.
Or he was the principal's pet.
Mm-hmm.
But she was hitting Pat over the head with them rulers and,
Oh my.
and you know, all that kind of stuff. I mean, wouldn't have been so bad if she'd been using her butts, but she wasn't, you know. She did Joe, because he was just little. But,
Well, I don't think I'd listen to somebody who slapped me upside the head with a ruler.
well, the bad part of it was, Pat was way yonder bigger than what his age was. And they didn't mess with him too much.
Mm-hmm.
We went to Brush Creek School, and there was 12 kids in Brush Creek, and Mama had 6 of them. 6 of them blown off. And then we went from Brush Creek to New Cambria. And that's where we were going to school when I got sent to California. But at Brush Creek School, just a little country school, had a man teacher, and he was only something like, well, he was young enough he got drafted in the Army.
Oh.
You know, he was young. And then they brought another man teacher in, and one of the girls said he got smart with her, and that was wrong. He never done no such thing. And anyhow, they fired him. Then they hired Ethelene Frey, and her husband's name was Dutch.
I can tell from the look on your
Yeah.
face that you must have really liked them.
I didn't like her. I liked him,
Okay.
but I didn't like her. She was a sister to the one that taught at Clifton Hill with the one arm, you know.
Mhm.
She was a sister to her.
I see.
And she was mean, just like she is, except she had both hands. And she used to pull Robert's hair, my brother Robert. She used to pull his hair and pull his ears, stuff like that, you know. She pulled his ears away from his, you know, she pulled on his ears so much that they come loose from his, you know, and bled around the.
Wow.
And my mom and dad very seldom ever interfered with what was going on at school. But that time they did. Mama gave him a buzz cut. I mean, she cut his hair right down next to his scalp.
Mm-hmm.
And then she wrote to the teacher. She said, "Bitch, I want to see you pull his hair now."
Wow. That made me feel loved.
So that put a stop to that.
Mhm.
And her and Dad both went to school about her pulling his ears, you know. They said he's got a hind end. If you have to spank him or get on him, use it. But leave his face and head alone, you know. You've got no right to be pulling on his ears hard enough to pull them loose from his head, you know. And I guess Joe was kind of the pet down there too, you know. See, there was Pat, me, Nana, Joe, Robert, Lee. There were 6 of us that went down there, and then she had 2 at home. So, and we had to walk across the pasture where there was cattle in the pasture, you know, and they had his bull in there. We knew better than to tease the bull.
Uh-huh.
We tried it once. Didn't work so good. And you know, they don't forget. Bulls don't forget. And so we got where we go to the guy that owned the cattle. We'd go up and go down his driveway and instead of going across the pasture.
Mm-hmm.
It added more, you know, distance to our trip, but at least we didn't have to worry about the bull getting us.
Yeah, I'd be a little worried
And we
too.
caused it because he never bothered nobody until we started teasing him, you know. So you have to learn things, and sometimes it's the hard way.
Yeah. Hard knocks.
But and I know we used to have what you call box suppers, where the women would they would either make a dinner, depend on whether you was having a pie social or a meal.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they'd make a meal, and then they auction them off. You know, they didn't have no names on them, so you weren't supposed to know whose boxes you was buying. And some of those boxes went really high. You know, people see them, and I think sometimes they knew whose box they were buying, and they were trying to make sure they bought one that they wouldn't get in no trouble for buying. But I remember Mom put fried chicken and biscuits, and I can't remember what all she put in, you know, the box that I had. And Dutch Frey bought it. But, and you know, I was so backwards that it was hard for me to eat, you know, sitting there by him, you know. But school was fun then, you know, because we did a lot of things. We always had a Christmas program, and, you know, we had a program for Easter, and we did things, you know, at that little school. Of course, the school wasn't big enough to, you just got 12 students, you can do a lot of things.
Yeah.
And the first man teacher that we had, he was an idiot. He got out there and played with the rest of us kids, just, I mean, you know, just like us kids did. He'd get out there and play with us, swing on the swings and on the teeter-totter and all that stuff, you know, with just like the kids did. But like I say, he was only something like 21 or 22 years old. He was young enough they drafted him into the Army. And but it was but as far as really liking school, I can't say that I ever actually liked school. There was parts of it I liked, you know. But when you're in the third, fourth grade, stuff like that, and you get behind, it don't seem like you ever catch up, you know. And I got behind in the third grade, and because people used to ask me, how come you're 19 years old and just graduating high school? Well, I flunked the first grade, and I flunked the third grade. That's why I'm 19 years old trying to get out of high school.
Yeah.
You know, but
Born on a leap year. Oh, I was just joking. You were born on a leap year.
But it was, I don't know. I wouldn't want to do it again. Because them was some cold days walking, you know. I had ice storms, and we'd take broomsticks or just cut tree limbs, you know, just however long we needed them to hold. And Daddy put a nail in the end of them, you know, and we, one in each hand, you know, and stick those nails in that ice.
Oh.
So we could stand up, you know.
Right.
But we didn't call school off. The only time we was out of school was Christmas vacation, and they closed the school for 2 weeks. That's the only time we was ever out of school. It didn't make any difference whether it snowed 6 feet, 6 inches, or what it snowed. You went to school. And that ice storm, the ice was up to the top of the fence post. You know, we really had a bad ice storm that year. But you get to the top of the hill, and then you could sit down and slide down the hill. You know,
Satisfying reward.
getting to the top of the hill was a challenge. And I think of Joe, bless his heart, being just, you know, second grade, I guess. Little, you know, he was always little for his age. And And I think of him having to walk like that, you know. You think I'd let one of my kids do that?
I don't think so.
No. I'd keep them home first. But you couldn't do that then because they did have truant officers that would, after you missed so many days, there wasn't a good reason for it, you know. But in my case, just got to stay home and take care of these babies so I can go to work. You know, so I always had a house full of kids to take care of. And now you say, I want a whole bunch of kids. And Lord, I'm glad I didn't have a whole bunch of kids. Mama had 8. Well, she had 9. She lost one. But it was 8 of us. I stopped at 4, and Lisa had 4, Randy had 4.
It's a magic number.
Yeah. Brian had 3, and Scott just had 2. Pat never had any. They never. He was married to about 3 or 4 different women, and he never did have any kids. Dinah had 3. Let's see. I had 4. Dinah had 3. Joe's 2. Robert was 1. Lee 2. Sammy 2. So didn't nobody have more than 4. But you try to feed 10 people every night now, at the price groceries are now, you'd be putting out some money.
Yeah, you'd have to be a little well off.
Yep. Well, how many kids does Julie and her husband have? Julie, what's her name?
Julie at MBS?
Huh?
Which Julie are you talking about?
The one that's a nurse.
I don't think I know that Julie.
Yeah, Julia Jones, last name Jones.
Oh, I see.
Well, she got 5 boys, 6 boys, something like that.
You can see it on Facebook.
Did they have any girls?
Not that I've seen.
I don't think they had any girls. I've wondered, but I've never seen any girls on them. Except they got one boy that looks like a girl because his hair is down to here. But she is so pretty to have had that many kids, you know. And maybe the fact that she worked all the time helped. But to have that many boys, you know. And it looks like they're almost all grown now.
Yeah,
know?
they're getting there.
Yeah. What is her other name? Julianne? I don't know. Anyway, I see her on Facebook all the time. She walks her dogs a lot,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and she worked all through the COVID thing at the hospital. She was triage nurse. Yeah, I presume he works somewhere. I don't know.
Presumably. I don't know any details about what he does.
But I know when you were passing Sacrament, there was one of those boys that was around your age,
That sounds familiar, but
because he passed sacrament the same time you was.
mhm.
But they're almost all of them grown now, and it's hard to picture that. And Abigail Brown, she's got a baby.
Mhm.
Everybody's got babies. Um, and it seems like everybody that goes on a mission, um, Liza Martindale, she ain't got no baby, but she got married just shortly after she came back off her mission. I think she went maybe 2 years school. Then she got married. Brother Tia's daughter,